that is ohmTown.com over there. That's what powers this show and all of the 50 shows that I plan on bringing to Twitch and to YouTube. I'm not, like I said in other episodes, I'm not partner, so my retention and my resources are limited. So I copy everything over to YouTube unedited. I turn it into a podcast with limited edits, usually just the intro and outro. I don't have any ads. I basically am doing this as fun for me, and I hope that somebody has a fun time chatting with me. And I've seen people come in and leave, and they don't really leave any feedback or anything like that. And I would appreciate some feedback. That would be great to hear what you like, don't like. If you don't want to talk about the news, then I totally understand it. But this show is about science. It's about technology. It's about society and sociology therein. I don't do a deep dive. But it is science, and business and sociology are bound by technology, and that's what I talk about. So I'm going to throw myself in science and technology, and we can talk about it because I link to all of that, the whole range from science to technology. And I would love to have another category called STS, because society is also, it's a whole area of academic research, science, technology, and society. Well, anyway, today's episode is for June 21st, 2022. It's episode 172. Since I got started in this at the beginning of the year, we are doing pretty good halfway through the year, and I've done a show every single day. So what is ohmTown? ohmTown is a news aggregation site that funnels news into 6 main categories: create, news, education, entertainment, social, and technology. Within those are about 50 shows. If you're interested in hosting or co-hosting, get in touch. I've already selected about 20 articles, like I do every time I do a show. And let's get into it, right? So the very first article is Elon Musk said Tesla is cutting 3.5% of its total workforce because it's... Whoa, what happened here? That was weird. It didn't post it when I copied and pasted it. Tesla is in the process of... let me reread the title because I am derping apparently. Elon Musk said Tesla is cutting 3.5% of its total workforce because it's targeting salaried workers with layoffs. Salaried workers, folks. Interesting as to why this little reduction in force would take place. Tesla is in the process of laying off 10% of its salaried staff. CEO Elon Musk said that it means cutting around 3 to 3.5% of its total workforce. Musk's messaging around cuts has been confusing at times. Elon put more exact figure on how many of its workers it plans on cutting during an interview on Tuesday, and Tesla has started laying off its staff in recent weeks. So let's click the link. It takes us over to Business Insider, and Isabel Asher Hamilton is the author of this article. Let me do something over here. Okay. And I'm not quite sure why somebody would lay off and just call it what it is. It's firing 10% of its salaried staff. So let's see if they mention what it was. It was that super bad feeling that he had a while back. I talked about it when he made that comment. He said that he later seemed to contradict in a tweet saying total headcount will increase, but salaried should be fairly flat. Well, obviously not. Appearing via video link at the Qatar Economic Forum, Musk was asked to clarify exactly what proportion of Tesla workforce he expects to lay off, and it's probably all of those muckrakers that are having a bad attitude about their workplace and shenanigans that I would call it shenanigans by the CEO. We expect to grow our hourly workforce. So why? We grew very fast on the salaried side, and we grew a little too fast in some areas, and it requires a reduction. So why fire hourly people other than there's benefits when you are a salaried employee, but if you are an hourly employee and you don't meet a minimum, and that minimum is actually, it depends on it. Well, they're going to be bound by federal requirements because of their size and because they're getting federal money. So I'm not sure what all is going on policy and procedure wise within Tesla. I'm sure they're getting federal money just like SpaceX is, but at any rate, I'm not sure exactly what the extent of their requirements are, but it really depends on a few factors. But hourly employees don't necessarily get benefits, which means that there is a smaller overhead, which to me, it actually screams that you have the ability to abuse people a little bit more. You can pay people really well, but without benefits, they have to foot the bill, and it's very expensive because there's no real bargaining power as an hourly employee to get better benefits. So again, it screams unionization for tech workers. Because I remember working 100-hour work weeks as a salaried employee, and with wisdom and experience comes the ability to say no. And the whole nation is basically an at-will state unless you're under a specific kind of contract. And even then, you can still always quit and be fired depending on just how motivated you are to break a contract. So it's the article says, so I guess technically a 10% reduction in the salaried workforce is only roughly a 3% to 3.5% reduction in total headcount. So Musk also reacted to a lawsuit which had been filed by 2 former Tesla employees who were terminated this month. Yeah, I'm sure. They were the former employees said they were part of a layoff of around 500 workers in Nevada and accused Tesla of breaking the law by laying off hundreds of employees on short notice. That's a whole RIF thing. The pair say they violated the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act. Yeah. It was preemptive. Called the suit preemptive, trivial, and said it had no standing. It's a small lawsuit that has no consequence. That's why billionaires have no understanding of what consequences are. So let's move on to the next article. Kathy Wood warns the Fed is ignoring dangerous signals and risks plunging the U.S. into a recession with its huge rate hikes. No, it's pumping the brakes on the economy. But I think this is born by greedflation. This is born by the very people that are complaining about inflation. If you keep on raising rates, why are you raising rates and not keeping your margins smaller? Why not lower your margins? Not everybody needs to be a billionaire. And all you're doing is really punishing the middle class and lower by aggregating your wealth and power. And when everybody gets tired of this crap, it's going to be a nightmare. It's going to be an economic nightmare, a social nightmare. But hey, keep everybody fighting on the floor about race and about religion and about gender issues, instead of just accepting everybody as being equal as human beings. And you don't have to worry about your profit margins, because everybody's too busy trying to survive while you are accruing all of this. You're aggregating, you are merging and keeping everything for yourself in your little hoard of gold. And I get people that have said to me, well, they don't keep that money. Yes, they actually do keep that money. I hope that people understand that that money doesn't sit in a bank and not be used as leverage to increase further the wealth of billionaires. Do they spend it? Yes. The expectation of that spend is a return on investment that is in the 20% or greater space. And even when it's billions of dollars, the return on investment is expected to sometimes be multiples of the investment. If they act as an angel investor, out of the kindness of their heart, the expectation is great. So Kathy Wood has warned the Federal Reserve could cause a recession if it keeps hiking interest rates. That's the intent, is to stop it from growing too fast. But it's not a recession. It's greedflation, reversing the engine to get as much money now because the money doesn't actually leave the system. It just gets aggregated into the upper echelon because they have the money and power and political influence to garner that wealth at higher and higher levels. When single individuals have so much power and influence that they can manipulate the stock market, things are just out of alignment with society, and it's sociopathic. It's antisocial behavior. You cannot keep demanding higher and higher amounts of return on your investment and raise prices without something breaking. And this is what's breaking the economy, and it's going to press down on people that can't afford to weather this tide. The Fed seems to be worried more about its legacy than the economy. Speak to your other upper echelon people. I don't know how to describe it other than that. These are human beings that are raising the prices in the face of inflation. They are causing inflation to garner profits. In the face of coming stagflation, then recession, because you always you either blow through stagflation and end up in a recession, or you go straight to recession. But either way, it's a spectrum, and then you reverse course and you end up with prices increasing, fewer options, very dystopian in nature, and people start selling blood so that they can buy an orange. This is a problem born by greed, pure and simple. It isn't that there's too much money in the system, because too much money doesn't mean anything. If the money is still circulating and everybody is still getting what they need, then there is no increase. It's just that the prices are sitting there and production is still going and people are still buying, and you don't have anything that is slowing down the economy. It's just chugging right along with this self-declared 3% is a good thing mantra, which is bogus. Just the same thing as the only thing a business exists for is to create profits. No. It is not to just generate profits. It's to create value, which is entirely different than just generating money. If it was nothing more than generating money, then why is anybody creating goods or services? Because that is the objective of a business, of a business that is socially minded and not pure investing money to generate money, which is sociopathic. The objective is to create a good or service that benefits society, and you get remuneration for it. You get paid value for value. So Kathy Wood has become the latest high-profile investor to warn of potential U.S. recession. Oh, so it's only because it comes from a high-profile investor. When the common person is saying that the recession is coming and everybody should look out for it, then it doesn't make any freaking sense. Anyway, this article is over at Business Insider by George Glover. Did I say where the other one is from? Yes, I did. Okay. So you can go over there and read the rest of this. This is ARK Invest CIO Kathy Wood, quote, has slammed the Federal Reserve's aggressive moves to curb inflation, which she says could plunge the U.S. into a recession. Yeah, this is probably because money wasn't moved fast enough, and hence they couldn't leverage it in some way to create greater profit for themselves. You know, services like this only beget more money, and so that's what everybody's bitching about. But when everything was steaming ahead, leading towards an inevitable reverse of direction, nobody was bitching. It's the exact same thing that's happening with Bitcoin. By the way, today's stock market is up 570. The Dow is up 570. S&P's up 100. Nasdaq's up 360. And I think Bitcoin is probably up, 1,000. And you want to know why? It's because people are buying it when it was low, and now they can sell it at a higher rate. And then when it crashes again, they'll buy it when it's low, but it's pegged to the U.S. economy, which is represented, arguably, by the stock market. Shocker, right? That Bitcoin goes up when the economy goes up? Isn't it supposed to be the reverse, because the Bitcoin market is supposed to be the defiant one that bucks the system of economics? Deutsche Bank says the U.S. is heading for a deeper recession than previously expected, with unemployment set to jump. Yeah, we're already very high. I would say that unemployment is actually, when you peel back the layer of marketing and data manipulation, we're probably somewhere at 13 to 15%. Deutsche Bank said the U.S. economy is heading for a deeper recession than it previously expected. Deutsche Bank, which I have zero respect for, was the first big bank to predict a U.S. recession when it made the call in April. Since the Fed hiked interest rates almost 1% last week, more Wall Street analysts are coming around to that view. Yeah, well, I've been calling this since I started. But I am not a large bank, and I am not a large investor, and I am just somebody who is reading the tea leaves, I guess. I don't know. I'm picking my nose and telling people that it's the end of the world. Not really. I just think that this is a self-fulfilling prophecy by the producers, the raw materials producers. The people that are growing the grain are raising the rates. The people that are mining or pumping the oil out of the ground, the people that are doing the mining, the people that fund this, because everything has been consolidated to a select few, like the Koch brothers. All of that major investment is controlling the direction, and now it's consolidated to the point where it can influence the entire U.S. market, because so much is consolidated at a few points. And so now they want their money, because they had to sit on their hands for 2.5 years because of the pandemic, and now they're taking all of the wealth that it has been garnered by the middle class, and you all have to spend it so that you can survive. And it's kind of like paying the rent for a condo, for an apartment. You're basically paying somebody else's mortgage because they don't own that building. They're paying a mortgage. They just happen to be able to let out apartments. And they charge you $2,000 for an apartment that really only costs them 30% of that. So let's click the link so I can give credit to businessinsider.com. Harry Robertson is the author of this. This is a neat picture of uncut bills. It's pretty neat. Yeah, I dig that. I actually have an idea to try and stop forging of money that can be integrated into the system, the printing system. Pardon me. Harry Robertson is the author over at Business Insider of this article. Since the Fed hiked rates by almost 1% last week, more Wall Street analysts are coming around to the view that we are going to fall into a recession. And if we fall into a recession, we'll drag others down with us. That's just the nature of the beast of a global economy. Since that time, the Fed has undertaken a more aggressive hiking path. Financial conditions have tightened sharply and you're not going to be able to buy a house, folks. If you haven't purchased a house, if you didn't refi last year prior to September, October, you're screwed until probably 2025. So good luck. And if you were in an ARM, I'm really sorry, because you're going to feel the pinch. Deutsche Bank expects that the U.S. economy slows, unemployment will pick up relatively sharply from the 3.6 level. I don't believe that for a moment, that we're at 3.6. They're discounting the fact that people are just tired of the BS and they're not looking for a gig. Where it's hovered for the past 3 months. Yeah, during a recession, during inflation, and a pandemic that has basically purged people from employment, we're at 3.6%. Give me a break. Luzetti and colleagues said this situation would be similar to the downturns in the early 90s and 2000s, which they described as modest. Yeah. Now, what's going to end up happening is mega corporations are going to be able to automate things, and they're not going to be hiring people, except engineers. So go look at grocery stores. The only thing that they got are independent contractors that do stocking instead of the employees that would have been hired by the business. That way they increase the margin, because stockers go in from what amount to routes. Okay, so external people are franchisees of routes for suppliers. Let's say they're Kellogg. So they go into a store and they stock stuff, and then they get the hell out of Dodge, and they have a geographic zone that they are in charge of, and they make money off of the sales of that particular product in that store. It's kind of like owning a vending machine. Well, back in the day, we used to hire people to take stuff from the stock room and go out and stock it, but they were employed by the company, by the grocery store. Now it's not like that anymore. Yeah, some still have employees do some stocking, but it's really light, and only certain things. And not everybody can afford to do this franchising. You have to have some wealth to fund it, to get it going. Anyway, let's click the link. It'll take us over to CNBC. Kellogg plans to split into 3 independent companies. And this article is by Amelia Lucas. Kellogg plans to separate into 3 independent public companies, sectioning off its iconic brands into distinct snacking, cereal, and plant-based businesses. The company said it's exploring further strategic alternatives, including a potential sale for its plant-based business. Yeah, because that is the tranche. I predicted that as well. The moment I had heard rumors about Kellogg wanting to split, and then it just happened that these guys talked about it before I did. We'll get into other things that I spoke about earlier. But the company said it's exploring further strategic alternatives, including potential sale for its plant-based, and that's because it is a low margin, high risk market, because it's a smaller population, except that we really do need to move towards a plant-based protein diet instead of animals, and there's zero evidence, depending on who you pay, it's going to be either pro or con plant-based diets having the same level of protein from that versus meat. You know, most people don't need 3,000 calories in their diet each day. Some people do, granted, some people do. But if you're sitting at a desk, if you're sitting here streaming, you don't need a 3,000 calorie diet. So they have a little video over here on CNBC, and they're talking about how shares of the company rose 6.5% in pre-market trading on the announcement. I'm not sure where they are at right now. Yeah, this doesn't do it in real time. So depending on the site that I go to get news, they have real time, relatively real time. Sometimes it's delayed by like 15-20 minutes. Anyway, let's go on to the next article. It's in the Word in Tech. I am not a robot. iOS verification update marks end of CAPTCHAs. I love this. I'm trying to deploy this over on ohmTown. Go over to ohmTown, sign up, become a citizen. An annoyance, an important security feature, an uncomfortable existential request. However you feel about being asked to prove you're not a robot, it has become a daily occurrence for most of us, but perhaps not one you would miss. Yeah, I would prefer being asked to confirm a login and then logging in. Kind of like having a CAC, what's referred to as a CAC card. It's a common access card. And you basically plug it in, you verify that you are who you are, and you get logged into whatever it is. And as long as your card is inserted, you remain logged in unless a timeout in activity occurs. And then you just come back and it verifies your identity again. A new feature in the upcoming version of iOS and macOS operating systems for iPhones and computers promises to give the boot to CAPTCHAs once and for all. Called automatic verification, the technology will allow sites to verify you're not a robot without you having to do anything at all. That's not true. You still have to do something. You have to confirm that you are who you are. The article says is over at The Guardian, and it's by Alex Hearn, who is a technology advisor or editor. Sorry, technology editor. I would be a technology advisor. So it may ask you to spot all the traffic lights in a picture. These are CAPTCHAs. You likely don't enjoy being interrupted by these, said Apple's Tommy Pauly. I certainly don't. The company worked with Fastly and Cloudflare, two companies that operate the infrastructure level of much of the public internet. Yeah, okay. To build the feature. It relies on the same sort of technology and underpins Apple's efforts to replace passwords across the internet, and works by allowing your device to send an encrypted statement confirming it's being used by the human over the requesting website. Essentially, you could have the ability to ping it. It would ping your phone, and then the camera would verify that you are who you are. The only problem there is if it's deployed the wrong way and your phone is looking at you, somebody else can log in as you. So there's going to have to be some smart solutions deployed to mitigate that. That's why I prefer a process wherein I can go to a website and it'll ask for my authorization to log in, and it gives a code, much like what two-factor or multi-factor authentication is, that Microsoft has. It sends a code out, and if I get a request for a code, I have to confirm it and unlock it. And therein, nobody gets access to it. I have to confirm it as well as unlock it. Without a password. It's just a 2-digit code, but that 2-digit code has to be confirmed within a special app. or a text message, and I have to confirm it by mashing a button that says what the code is. So I've received those before where I get a code, but there isn't, I'm not logging into anything. So I know that somebody's trying to hack my account. And I just don't acknowledge it. Although somebody has created an account. Somebody opened up a credit card in my name. Well, actually in their name, but with my email address. And every time I try and notify the company that the credit card was created by, they summarily dismiss my emails. They do not respond to my notice. But I could very easily log into the site, request a password change. It'll come to me. It'll come to me, and I can take over their account. Now, it's instantly a federal crime, so I don't do it, but I'm trying to get in touch with this person to make them realize that they have done this before in the past, and I thought that I nipped it in the bud, but they set up a credit card, a full-on credit card, and I suspect that this isn't a low-level credit card. So again, humans are the weakest link in security, and even this won't stop idiocy. So be sure you're the one that's in control of the email address that you're assigning to a credit card or a bank account. At this point, I suspect that they still use the same password everywhere, and I could probably just reset the password and they would figure it out. Let's move on. The next article is in the Mobile Channel. Hong Kong's world-famous floating restaurant has sunk. Oh my god, it marks a tragic end to the massive 3-story eatery that was designed like a Chinese imperial palace and could seat up to 2,300 diners. Unable to stay in business after more than 4 decades in operation, it was towed from the city's harbor to an undisclosed shipyard in Southeast Asia last week. In a statement issued on Monday night, owner Aberdeen Restaurant Enterprises said the vessel encountered adverse conditions when passing Zisha Islands, also known as the Paracel Islands. So let's call it the Paracel Islands. So anyway, pick a name. I'm sure that China wants it to be Zisha Islands. In the South China Sea on Saturday, despite efforts to rescue the vessel, apparently it went down. It will probably be some awesome diving, depending on how it broke apart. Salvaging the iconic Hong Kong landmark from the seafloor would be extremely difficult, its owner says. Yeah, again, depending on how it broke up. This is over at Vice.com by Rachel Chung. I may be pronouncing it incorrectly. I'm sorry if I am. Let me know. I'll correct my inflection. It marked a tragic end to this massive 3-story eatery. If you're watching this on the stream, this thing is huge. 2,300 people can sit on it. It has to be elbow to elbow. And it's a real bummer that it sank. And it's unfortunate that it couldn't stay in operation. It looks like it would be a neat thing. More stuff about China cracking down on Hong Kongers, start digitally preserving their city. Just sucks. Just leave Hong Kong alone. Despite efforts to rescue the vessel, water entered the ship, which began to tip and ultimately capsize on Sunday. The water depth at the scene is over 1,000 meters, so 3,000 feet down, making it extremely difficult to carry out salvage work. Yeah, it's done. Well, I hope they had some really good insurance. I'm sure they didn't. Right? That's my kind of luck. Let's see. Founded by the late Macau casino tycoon Stanley Ho in 1976, the jumbo floating restaurant counted Queen Elizabeth II and Tom Cruise among its guests and was featured in multiple films, including the 1974 James Bond movie, The Man with the Golden Gun. I remember that. Pretty neat, and unfortunately, all good things come to an end. Let's go on to the next article. This next article is ExxonMobil shares can jump another 45% from their current levels, Credit Suisse says, in upgrade. Of course, because they are jacking up fuel prices. Oh my gosh, I don't understand what is going on with this. Sometimes I can see everything and sometimes I can't. So I'm just going to have to move on. This is an article by Jesse Pound. I don't know, maybe there's something wrong with my browser. I don't have an ad blocker on my browser, so I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Researcher uncovered molecular basis of antigen processing for cancer target MR1 in a new study published in Nature Chemical Biology. Researchers at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, or CHOP, have revealed the molecular mechanics of a cell surface molecule that is a potential immunotherapy target using sophisticated techniques, and they always are, including nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. The researchers demonstrated the importance of so-called chaperone molecules in stabilizing this target, known as MHC-I related protein 1, or MR1. Let's click the link and take us over to phys.org, and it says researchers uncover molecular basis of antigen processing for cancer target MR1. This is an article on phys.org, but it's written by Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Major histocompatibility complex class I, MHCI. Molecules live on the surface of nearly all cells and present peptide antigens to the immune system so that immune cells can detect when a foreign antigen is present, such as those from bacteria, viruses, or even developing tumors. In a similar process, the MHCI protein, related protein 1, or MR1, I'll just refer to it as MR1 from now on, specific immune cells, namely mucosal-associated invariant T, or MAT cells. MR1 is known to be important for the recognition of microbial infections, the identification of cancerous cells as opposed to healthy ones, and the regulation of autoimmune disease. Recent studies also suggest that MR1 can display a much broader range of molecules, including cancer-specific metabolites, which could serve as internal sensors for disease. I am more so interested in the idea of this colon cancer that was entirely reversed in every patient, although there was only 18 patients. I think that would be something that could be addressed as well as this. Anything that allows us to personalize treatment and get away from nuclear treatments. Because the way that chemo and radiation therapies work is by destroying everything good and bad, in the hopes that it annihilates both the chemical marker that stops cancer cells from flourishing, metastasizing, as well as the cells that are in situ and free-floating in the bloodstream cell portions, because I have read that there could be cells, cancer cells, that are free-floating in the blood that can bond to a location and create another tumor. And when the chemical marker that suppresses other tumors from growing is reduced, all of these free-floating tumor cells can keep on dividing without any controls. And this is stuff that I've read in the past, but my experience is very limited the last 5 years. So in vitro and in-cell techniques, the researchers found that MR1 operates differently than MHCI, particularly when it comes to molecular loading and affinity for the molecular chaperones, tapacin and TAP-BPR, whereas MHC1 demonstrated a high affinity for molecular chaperones when empty, but low affinity when loaded with presenting antigens. MR1 interacted at equally low levels with TAP-BPR, whether it was loaded with metabolites or not. The level of complexity of creating this is just spectacular, and I think it's amazing. So let me throw this link in chat, and it'll be in the show notes later tonight. later today. I actually have something going on immediately after this. But I'll come back and I'll post this as a podcast and over to YouTube as soon as humanly possible. Merrily. Anyway, the next article is in the Word and Tech channel. Damaged plants and fake perfumes can be identified rapidly and reliably in real time now. A chiral signature of a fragrance can reveal whether a perfume is genuine or fake. Similarly, the chiral signature of the emissions of a plant can provide information on whether the plant is healthy or sick. Researchers at Johann Gutenberg University Mainz, or JGU, and the Max Planck Institute for Chemistry, MPIC, have developed an innovative approach capable of identifying and monitoring such chiral signatures. Most natural chiral substances are found in two mirror image forms present in different relative quantities. Therefore, every plant and every perfume must have its own individual chiral hallmark. Using their new approach, the research team has been able, for the first time, to identify chiral compounds. So this is pretty neat, and I'll be offering this up to somebody that is not a client, but based on that, could very well be. This article's over at phys.org, and it's titled again, Damaged Plants and Fake Perfumes Can Be Identified Rapidly and Reliably in Real Time, and it's from the University Mainz. And let's see here. It says our new technique has enormous potential, specifically in agriculture and chemical industry. I said Dr. Burgos of JGU. Professor Jonathan Williams of MPIC added that in addition to commercial applications, this technique will also make it possible for us to decode chiral signatures in the air around us, enabling us to better understand the chemistry of the atmosphere. The cooperating partners have already applied for a patent for this technique. So it's naturally occurring odors differ from synthetic ones. So synthetic ones, obviously, it's kind of like light. Sunlight versus LED light. If you look at it, you can actually look at the spectrum and you can identify even the manufacturer of a particular light bulb, because there are manufacturing flaws between two different manufacturers, both in the chemical and the ingredients that make up the light, and natural sunlight. That's how we know about the makeup of stars, because we look at the spectroscopy. And so they're doing it with the chemical side of things, the same thing as spectroscopy, and looking at the what amounts to the DNA in its chemical makeup. So it's quite fascinating, and I can see the application of this for many people, for many people, because it wouldn't. I suspect it doesn't take that much to do the analysis. I think I might get in touch with these people and find out what the current cost is. The next article is astronomers link 64 telescopes to observe the structure of the universe. An international team of astronomers have, for the first time, combined the power of 64 radio telescope dishes to detect the faint signatures of neutral hydrogen gas across cosmological scales. So this is a probably hemispherical level. This is like half of the planet is pointed in one direction at any time, and receiving signals from the entirety of the cosmos at differing rates. And then based on calculating the rate of that data hitting, you can actually use a radio telescope to angle where this data, to know the angle of incidence, so you know where it's hitting the satellite dishes, and so you can discern the data from that point. And with enough telescopes, you can basically do that across a large swath. So let's see if that's what they talk about. The feat was achieved by using the South African-based Meerkat telescope. Oh, how apropos, meerkats are cute. A precursor to the world's largest radio observatory, the SCA Observatory, which will probe the universe in unprecedented detail. And it's radio astronomy, folks. It's not optical, so it's a completely different level of data. It's not really something that you can see with the naked eye. It has to be translated into something that is representative of that data. So a primary aim for I have a hard time pronouncing that one, just call it the SCA Observatory, is to understand the evolution and content of the universe along with the mechanisms which drive its accelerating expansion. I'm not quite sure why we're fixated on trying to explain the mechanisms of the accelerating expansion. If we are truly accelerating, this has gone back and forth. Everything is expanding at the same rate, but then over time we've been told now that it's expanding at an accelerating rate. But if we are still on the acceleration part of an explosion, we're younger than, well, we're more on the younger side than we are on the older side, because as we expand, if we're accelerating, we'll lose kinetic energy from the Big Bang. Eventually it'll suck back in, arguably. That's what some people are saying, and others are saying we'll just go off into nothingness. We'll keep on expanding because there's nothing really pulling us back except gravity from our own little segments of space. I think it's all up for argument and discussion still, and I'm sure well after my lifetime more data will come. So the SCA Observatory, which has its headquarters based in Jodrell Bank, Cheshire, is currently under construction. However, there are already Pathfinder telescopes, such as the 64-dish array Meerkat, in place to guide its design. So good luck. This would be yet another thing where everybody needs to work together to better society and our existence as a human being. And if only we could stop fighting over water and food and learn to exploit technology so that we can have food for everybody. The only other problem here is that we have this tribal mentality where we have to reproduce and protect our name and fight all of those people, whoever those are. And we need to just stamp out this tribal mentality of them versus us, and realize that we are all of the same genetic makeup. It just happens to be in different configurations, and get away from this elitism and other BS, racism, and sociopaths that have to get billions of dollars. It's all rather selfish to me. But I've had friends who have said the only reason that I am this way is because I'm not a billionaire. And I said, actually, I'm not a billionaire because I am this way, not the other way around. Money doesn't make you a sociopath. You're a sociopath, and that's why you've made money, because you're willing to step on society and take. Yeah, it's a more complex question and answer about this. So happy to discuss it. So come on down and argue your point. Anyway, this article, Astronomers Link 64 Telescopes to Observe the Structure of the Universe, is by Ben Robinson from the University of Manchester over at phys.org. Let's go on to the next article. Got about 5 more to go. Blood pressure e-tattoo promises continuous mobile monitoring. Blood pressure is one of the most important indicators of heart health, but it's tough to frequently and reliably measure outside of clinical setting. That's not really true. For decades, cuff-based devices that constrict around the arm to give a reading have been the gold standard, but now researchers at the University of Texas at Austin and Texas A&M University have developed an electronic tattoo that can be worn comfortably on the wrist for hours and deliver continuous blood pressure measurements at an accuracy level exceeding nearly all available options on the market today. So I want one. I'm really into data. I bought and had installed a tonal because it is a very precise automatic recording of your workout. Today is my recovery day, and I'm feeling it. And so in 2 days, I've lifted somewhere around 3 tons. I don't remember exactly. But I've only worked out twice. So one is the beginning workout, and then there's a beginning workout, and then I did another workout, and then I've done another workout. So 2 real workouts. And I've moved about a ton. So at my age and my level of sedentary, I had to ease into it, and knowing my blood pressure and pulse and other data is really interesting to me. And kind of like what I did with my cholesterol level, I wanted to see if drinking whey protein at least once a day and drinking Metamucil, which is a fiber drink, drinking that twice a day, so 16 ounces of each, would lower my cholesterol level. And I won't talk about the other stuff, but because somebody really irritated me about their observations. But anyway, I lowered my cholesterol level by 33% in 90 days, including me taking the last 2 weeks of those 90 days and basically falling off the wagon somewhat. I probably would have gotten closer to 40% if I would have stayed on it. So I am continuing to do that effort and try and drive down my cholesterol level even more. So wish me luck, but having a blood pressure tattoo would be amazing, particularly if it would be semi-permanent. If not permanent, I would love to know. I wouldn't like it being public like that right there, but I guess we have to see. Blood pressure is the most important vital sign you can measure, but the methods to do it outside of the clinic passively without a cuff are very limited. Yeah. You can actually get a cuff that goes on your wrist that does it automatically. It's quite expensive, $600+. When I tried to get one and decided, well, it was like right at the beginning of the pandemic and people were freaking out about everything and there wasn't very much demand. So it was very hard to get, and I never got one. I would love to have one though. I can wear it on my other wrist. Anyway, so I bought not an aftermarket one. I bought a conventional blood pressure cuff, and so you have to strap it on and mash a button and wait and blah blah blah. Anyway, so having this, you know what? I'm gonna start doing this. Let's play it. I don't think you guys can hear it out there. So I wonder. Sorry for the quiet. I'm actually watching a video, but the audio isn't going through. I'm really not sure what they're doing. I don't know if that's a catalyst or something. They don't actually talk about it in the video. I hope my music is not too loud on your side. Anyway, the continuous monitoring of the e-tattoo allows blood pressure measurements of all kinds of situations at times of high stress, while sleeping, exercising, etc. It can deliver thousands of measurements, more than any device thus far. And not if you're sleeping. How does it actually? Okay, I'm gonna have to look into this some more. The sensor for the tattoo is weightless and unobtrusive. You place it there, you don't even see it, and it doesn't move. You need a sensor to stay in the same place, because if you happen to move it around, the measurements are going to be different. The device takes its measurements by shooting an electrical current across the skin and then analyzing the body's response, which is known as bioimpedance. Yeah, we use that when I was doing research in VR phobia treatment. You need the sensor to stay in the same place, because if it's kind of like redshift, if it moves, then it's going to be different depending on where the measurement is being taken from. So as long as it stays in the same spot, you're going to be okay. Everybody's bioimpedance is a little bit different. I know somebody that has like zero conductivity across their wrist. So there is a correlation between bioimpedance and changes in blood pressure that has to do with blood volume changes. However, the correlation is not particularly obvious, so the team had to create a machine learning model to analyze the connection to get accurate blood pressure readings. Now I want this so bad. In medicine, cuffless blood pressure monitoring is the holy grail, Jafari said, but there isn't a viable solution on the market yet. It's part of a larger push in medicine to use technology to untether patients from machines while collecting more data wherever they are. Yep. And all this data can help create a digital twin to model the human body to predict and show how it might react and respond to treatments over time. Yep. In fact, I had a project that was underway so that people could report how their treatment was going. That was external to the doctors, and then other solutions came to bear, and I couldn't keep up with the changes. Again, one-man shop, one-person shop. The next article is in the Daily News Show. Why do tens of millions in the U.S. Support an economic system that doesn't benefit them? If people throw money away, opportunities in their very lives, chasing destructive delusions, then we might as well revert to divine right of kings or the selection of leaders by lottery. So this has to be a Common Dreams, and it is article. I always believe, I continue to believe that the articles that come out of Common Dreams are very inflammatory. And so it says, if people throw, why do tens of millions in the U.S. support an economic system that doesn't benefit them? And it's by Mike Lofgren. Nearly two centuries ago, literature from Marx and Dickens to Thomas Piketty and Barbara Ehrenreich has dissected and denounced the machinations of the greedy rich, turn their pockets inside out, make them pay their fair share, and a more just society might be possible. The sentiment is not wrong. If someone like Elon Musk has a higher net worth than the gross domestic product of a country like Ukraine with over 40 million people, something is out of whack. I have said similar. But what if the analysis is incomplete? Suppose there is more collusion with the rich and powerful, and not just from the public relations lawyers, financial advisors, but from tens of millions of people who derive no benefit. Josh Marshall, the editor of Talking Points Memo, wrote about a conservative acquaintance. Years ago, this person, an immigrant from Britain, admitted that he didn't like firearms and didn't want them near his children, but agreed with the NRA position on guns as a matter of ideological solidarity. Lately, he bought a firearm and sees himself protecting his home and family from the crazed criminal hordes a la Night of the Living Dead. I would probably not use Night of the Living Dead. I would probably use The Purge. Marshall then discussed the police position on gun control. Traditionally, they were in favor of it. That made sense, since they were the people authorized and paid by the citizens to face down armed killers, except that they sometimes don't, even when children are the victims of said killer. Although the conservative guy and the police see the same issue from different existential situations, they both took positions that were against their rational self-interest. Well, I know that I've had this conversation with people, so it's largely anecdotal. I'm sure there might be some science out there that says similar, but people who say tax us are not sociopathic, and they see the benefit of programs to the public. You know, even if it doesn't directly support them, the abstract of better schools, bridges, sans the sugar daddy, better roads, better plumbing, better decision makers that are making decisions about better plumbing so that you don't leach lead into the drinking water and basically kill off an entire town, and hundreds of lines of family. In 2019, a vote on whether to unionize was held in Chattanooga Volkswagen plant. VW, which actually has union members on its board back in Germany, said it was neutral on unionization, so there were no heavy-handed Amazon-style tactics used against the plant's hourly employees, and the workers voted to reject it. Well, that might be because they felt that there was no need. Why? It's facile to say that people are insidiously bamboozled to act against their own interests on behalf of the wealthy and powerful. Sure, pro-business propaganda suffuses the national domain, but so it did during the Gilded Age, when peons de laissez-faire like acres of diamonds flooded off the presses, and no one is strapped to a chair and forced to watch dribble like Fox News. Perhaps the most insidious propaganda is voluntarily self-administered. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are following an ideological bent because that flies in the face of their own well-being, because of the conditioning, and perhaps lack of education and lack of empathy, and it leads me back to there's a lot of lead paint, and the upbringing of people is siloed. So again, you go to one state and people are very narrow-minded about it is this way, it is their way, and they've never gone to college, and they've never expanded beyond the silo of the college that is in their local community. And the people that are teaching that stuff that way are teaching that same ideological bent without saying, hey, go look over here. Whereas other places are more open-minded. They embrace empathy and sympathy, compassion, and understanding, and that we are a global society and not just... it's the same thing that I've said to people where I'm like, it's really easy to put the American flag on the back of your car here in the United States. Go do that somewhere else. And there's your tough guy. It doesn't go over very well in a lot of countries to be nationalist for other people's countries in other people's countries. But here in the States, we are very breadbasket. Everybody can come here, or I should say, we are a stew of cultures, much to the chagrin of some people who are, again, antisocial, not empathic, not sympathetic, not compassionate, very selfish peoples. Which again, the whole reason why we are as comfortable and capable as we are as a nation is because at a time we allowed a lot of cultures into the United States. And let's not forget the fact that we are, from the beginning of our founding until, I don't know, the mid-70s, largely endorsing slavery. Yeah, you know what? You can't ignore this stuff, folks. You have to understand it, accept it, not let it happen again. Even though it seems like we can't get away from it because people like to balkanize and fight instead of just acknowledging that all of this stuff happened, and you can't hide it. It existed. So they continue on in this article over at Common Dreams. Mike Lofgren continues to write about this. Why do tens of millions in the US support? Because they think that they are going to be able to grab the brass ring. Because if you oppress the masses and you're just a loud, vocal 10 million people, then you win. You win. But what do you win? Believe me, all of these people that are deluded by their belief that they're going to win on their side, they're not getting anything. I've heard countless people say, well, the previous 4 years was great for ... Really? How did you benefit? How did you really benefit? And nobody's been able to say how they've benefited. And you can't just be selfish and think about you individually, okay? Because you as a silo being the receiver of great benefit is at the cost of the rest of society. You have to keep it all in mind. Yeah, you're going to be... Inflation was coming, and the only thing that we can do is mitigate it because there was so much great expense previously. And now there are so many people that are hindered, burdened financially, that it really, the next thing should be paying all of the middle class and not saving businesses. Businesses can collapse and their liabilities are written off by the people who took all of the risk. And now we can pay the middle class for their financial burdens that were borne by the corporate class. Now's the time to flip the script, folks, and make a better foundation instead of all of this house of cards crap at the top. So let's go on to the next article. It's in the Hetch Ideas channel. President Biden says he's considering a federal gas tax holiday and sending Americans gas rebate cards to alleviate pain at the pump. I think this is dense because it's not stopping the abusers. It's kind of like saying, here's a band-aid to the people who are being abused. This is domestic violence in the making, because what's going to end up happening is prices are going to go up to offset this crap idea of a federal gas tax holiday. So now there's a bigger margin for these gas companies, and they can raise it up 10% and say, oh, it's because increased demand. Well, shit. The federal gas tax was supposed to alleviate that. By the way, this is the highest price that it's ever been in the United States. Gas right now. And crude oil prices are $10 lower than their peak. Even in the 70 oil and gas shock. Can you make sense of that? Greedflation, folks. This is an article by Sarah Jackson over at businessinsider.com. And there's really not much else to say about this. You can read more of the minutia of it. Pausing the federal gas tax, 18.4 cents per gallon, would require action from Congress. But this is nothing, because it's just going to stimulate the economy, and by doing so, the economy of the gas market, okay, for the fuel price. People are going to go out and drive more because it's 18% pause, or 18.4 cents paused. It's going to drop it, but then the gas companies are going to raise the price 10 cents. And so everybody's going to save 8.4 cents for a short time, but they're just going to spend more to fill up their tanks and go driving more. It's a stupid idea. Invest all of that money, that tax, into renewable energy and allow people to buy electric cars that have better batteries and a better battery system, so that you don't have to sit for 45 minutes waiting for your car to charge to 80%. Got two more articles. This one is in the continuity report. Harry Potter Greenhouse set added to Warner Brothers Studio Tour London. And there's not really much else to say. The studio tour, Tom Felton, right? So I think the author of this is Naman Rashandran. Pardon me if I'm not pronouncing that properly. Anyway, Tom Felton unveils Professor Sprout's greenhouse, part of the new Mandrakes and Magical Creatures feature opening at Warner Brothers Studio Tour London on July 1st. That's what the picture is here. You can go over to variety.com and read more about it, but it's basically opening up the Professor Sprout's greenhouse, and you'll be able to engage in some way. I think there's more stuff going on, but it's a studio tour. You can go and check it out by going over to variety.com. And the last article for today is a modder that built the first PS5 Slim, and this is arguable. Okay, I've actually watched this video before. I'm a subscriber of DIY Perks, and it says we featured DIY Perks incredible builds before, including a huge TV that was bright enough to use outside. Matt's latest build is something a bit closer to home, though. He's taken a Sony PlayStation 5 and made his own slim version of it. Obviously, it's nothing as simple as rehousing it in a new case. It's a whole feat of engineering on display here. Yeah, and I think it's really amazing the lengths at which they go to build this mini PS5, but it has external water cooling, external power block that kind of belies the fact that it is as small as it is. And let's see if I'm gonna play it, but let me see. That's not the right video, so I think I'm gonna have to go up here and I'll play this and just get to the point. So the power supply is external. There's external liquid cooling. Oh my gosh, this is just horrible. What is going on here? Yeah, I'm not going to be able to show you it because he doesn't show it, I don't think, in his video. So I know though that the power supply is external, and I know that there is an external water block cooling it. So it's not as tiny as you all think. The difference between his is that it's a full-size PS5 that's been hacked down to ultra slim, but it still does have this external stuff. And the benefits of an authorized PS5 Slim when it gets released is that the efficiency of the cores and the required temperature, the required energy for that same level of efficiency is integrated into the engineering of the chip and the chassis and everything else. So it lowers the amount of energy needed to reach the same efficiency. Whereas this is the first gen PS5 cut up and placed inside a massive heatsink. But kudos, Matt goes to extraordinary lengths and is just brilliant at doing this stuff, and he makes it seem so simple. Go over to his channel and subscribe for sure if you want to see more. But this article is over at PCGamer.com, and it's written by Alan Dexter. But I really liked watching the video. It was fun to watch and see. You know, if you break down a very complex engineering problem, you can make it look simple when you truly understand all of the mechanics of it, and he does a really great job at doing that. So with that in mind, I am at the end of the ohmTown Daily News Show. I want to thank you for coming. If you've stopped by my channel and you didn't say anything, still thank you. I would prefer it if you come in and you say hi and bye, or at least follow. I'd like to get that follower goal up to 100%. That would be wonderful. It's been a while since I've had any additional followers, but it's because my schedule is kind of derpy lately, and I'm not streaming a lot. Only this 1 hour when I do plan on adding more hours to it. I will probably be back tonight to do another I Need Friends show, which is the continuity report where I stream the audio portion of the show Friends after 30 years, give my perceptions of things after 30 years. I haven't watched it since it initially was broadcast on television, so I think that it would be neat to check it all out. And like always, I go back to the front page of ohmTown and it refreshes and shows you that there is always something new to read. So stop by ohmTown.com and become a citizen, and then come on back and talk to me tomorrow, 11 o'clock. Although I might be late. It really depends on if I can get over this meeting. So be sure to follow, go over to YouTube, like and subscribe. Follow me on the podcast as well. And if you follow me here on, you can go to Twitter as well, and follow me there, and you'll get notified when I do another show. Thanks again. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.